Do you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share with us? Send us an email with your story for a chance of it being featured on Weird World. In the early 1980s, an ordinary family outing to the Jantzen Beach Mall in Portland, Oregon, became the beginning of a decades-long ghost story that would captivate locals and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Mike Ball, a letter carrier from Portland, took his 4 young daughters, aged between 2 and 10, to ride the historic carousel at the mall. Little did he know that this seemingly mundane trip would lead to a chilling encounter, the significance of which would come to surface years later. As Mike and his well-behaved daughters waited patiently in line for their turn on the majestic merry-go-round, his attention was drawn to 2 children already aboard the ride. These children, however, were far from ordinary. Their behaviour was notably unruly, and their appearance struck Mike as peculiar. The boy, who appeared to be around 10 years old, wore knickers, while the girl, seemingly about 8, wore a dress in a style reminiscent of the 1920s. What truly set these children apart was their dangerous play. They were running around in the middle of the carousel, near the machinery housed in the central cylinder. An open door allowed visitors to peer inside, and from his vantage point in the queue, Mike could clearly see the children playing in this hazardous area. He found himself growing increasingly concerned and annoyed, assuming they were the operator's children due to the lack of intervention from the staff. At the time, Mike didn't give much thought to the strange presence of these children. It wasn't until over 15 years later that the true significance of his encounter would come to light. In the intervening years, Mike had developed a passion for ghost hunting and had even set up a website dedicated to haunted locations in Portland. Then, one fateful day in the late 1990s, Mike received an email that would send chills down his spine and force him to reassess his memories of that day at the carousel. The email was from Sarah Robinson, a woman who had been researching potential hauntings at the Jantzen Beach Carousel. Sarah's message described an eerily similar experience to Mike's, detailing sightings of 2 ghostly children playing on the carousel dressed in 1920s attire. Sarah's account was remarkably consistent with Mike's memories. She too had seen the children multiple times, but only when the door to the machinery was open. The description of their clothing matched Mike's recollection perfectly, right down to the boys' knickers. As Mike delved deeper into his memories, he recalled additional details. The ghostly children had whispered to each other, occasionally pausing to gaze off to the right, as if searching for someone. Despite the passage of time, the image of these strange, ethereal children had remained etched in his mind. Intrigued by this corroboration of his experience, Mike reached out to his now adult daughters, the youngest of whom was 22. To his surprise, none of them remembered seeing the ghostly children during their carousel rides. It seemed that only certain individuals were able to perceive these spectral figures. Sarah's encounters with the ghostly children had begun when she was just 3 or 4 years old. She described multiple sightings over the years, always occurring when the machinery door was open. The apparitions had left a lasting impression on her, evoking a sense of unease and a strange compulsion. Sarah recalled feeling as though the children wanted her to join them, their solemn faces staring her down as she rode past on her chosen outside horse. The most recent sighting reported by Sarah occurred on February 28, 2001, when she took her 3-year-old son Benjamin to ride the carousel. As they waited for the ride to begin, Sarah noticed they were positioned directly in front of the open machinery door. A shiver ran down her spine, and her son looked up at her with fear in his eyes, saying, "There's kids under there, Mama." Benjamin's reaction to the ghostly children was particularly telling. He expressed a strong aversion to going near the machinery, and upon returning home he was visibly upset and wanted to discuss the experience. Sarah carefully questioned her son, and his responses aligned eerily with her own childhood encounters. Benjamin described seeing two children, a boy and a girl, who wanted him to play with them. What Benjamin said next was truly chilling. In a quivering voice, he told his mother, "They got hurt and they can't leave. They're stuck in there." The girl said, "Don't throw him." This cryptic message would later prove to be a potential clue in unravelling the mystery of the carousel's ghostly inhabitants. The history of the carousel itself adds another layer of intrigue to the ghostly encounters. Built in 1921 by the C.W. Parker Amusement Company in Leavenworth, Kansas, the carousel has a storied past. Some historians claim it operated at the Venice Beach Pier in California from 1921 to 1924, alongside a roller coaster known for its numerous fatalities. Newspaper articles from the time frequently used the word "thrown" to describe how victims met their demise on the coaster, eerily echoing the ghostly girl's plea heard by Benjamin, "Don't throw him." This connection raises the possibility that the spirits haunting the carousel might be linked to tragic accidents that occurred during its time at Venice Beach. After its stint in California, the carousel was moved to the Jantzen Beach Amusement Park in Portland in 1928. The park was a popular attraction until 1970, when it was closed to make way for the Jantzen Beach Mall, which opened its doors on September 28, 1972. The carousel found a new home within the mall, continuing to operate and entertain visitors for decades. However, the mall and its beloved carousel would face significant changes in the years to come. In 1995, about 2/3 of the mall was demolished to make way for big box development. The centre was renamed Jantzen Beach Supercentre and expanded to 800,000 square feet. Fortunately, the east wing of the mall, where the carousel was located, remained intact with 3 anchor stores and a newly created food court. The ghostly sightings at the carousel have not been without controversy. When Mike shared Sarah's story on his website, he received an angry email from a carousel operator who dismissed the ghost reports as nonsense. The operator claimed to have worked there for years without witnessing any supernatural occurrences. However, Mike chose not to engage with the sceptical employee, knowing that his own experience, among countless others, validated the ghostly encounters. As with many paranormal phenomena, the ability to perceive these spectral children seems to vary from person to person. Children and sensitive adults appear to be more attuned to these otherworldly presences. Some theorise that this perceptiveness is akin to having a special talent, much like a musician's ability to identify musical notes or an artist's skill in creating accurate sketches. The rarity of these sightings adds a poignant dimension to the haunting. As Sarah Robinson noted, there's a palpable sense of loneliness surrounding these ghostly children. Trapped in a liminal space between worlds, visible to only a select few, it's no wonder they seem eager to interact with those who can perceive them. In recent years, the fate of the carousel and its spectral inhabitants has become uncertain. In 2010, further renovation plans were announced for the mall. By April 2012, a $50 million renovation project began, which included the demolition of the remaining enclosed portion of the mall. The centre's name reverted to Jantzen Beach Centre during this time. Sadly, despite plans to include the vintage carousel in the renovations, it has not been returned to public display. As of 2015, the carousel remains in storage in a building on the shopping centre property. This development has left many locals and carousel enthusiasts disappointed, as the historic ride was a tangible link to the area's past and the focal point of the reported ghostly encounters. The absence of the carousel raises questions about the fate of the spectral children that Mike, Sarah and young Benjamin encountered. Are they still present, unseen in the storage facility where the carousel now rests? Or have they moved on, their connection to this plane of existence severed with the removal of their playground? In July 2017, ownership of the Jantzen Beach Centre changed hands, with Kimco Realty of New York acquiring the property from the State of Michigan Retirement System Fund. This change in ownership adds another layer of uncertainty to the future of the historic carousel and any paranormal activity associated with it. Despite these changes, the legend of the ghostly children of the Jantzen Beach Carousel lives on in local lore. The Jantzen Beach Centre stands as a silent witness to these spectral encounters, its modern storefronts a stark contrast to the vintage charm of the now concealed carousel. Today, as shoppers stroll through the centre, most have no idea about the strange sightings tied to the now century-old ride. Yet the stories endure, demonstrating that some mysteries defy explanation and that the past may linger in unexpected places, waiting to be glimpsed by those attuned to its presence.